Folks, good afternoon. My name's Dustin Siggins with Proven Media Solutions. And today on Cracking the Comms Code, we are tackling what PR professionals need to know about AI. With me are Sam, Samantha, and Sarah. And before we dive in and have everyone make introductions, please bring your questions, your insights, and your experiences into the comments. Sam, Samantha, and Sarah, if you'd like to just briefly introduce yourselves and where you're coming from on how AI is going to impact the PR industry and what PR practitioners need to know, say over the next 2 years as we're coming into this.
All right, I'll jump in. I know no one wants to go first. I'm Sarah Evans. I am a tech enthusiast, head of PR partner at Zen Media. I actually was just looking down because I was rewriting my how I view myself even in the industry because I'm also a builder. I do wear many hats. I said I'm challenging the speed of change, and that is universally applicable to business for PR pros in the next 18 months. Buckle up, buttercups, because it's gonna get bumpy.
I'll go next then. So I'm Samantha Riel. I am the founder of Scale Without Chaos. My business is all about helping businesses, as is in the name, scale. So whether you're going from 1 to 5 million, 5 to 10 million, or if you have a percentage growth goal, that's what I do through people, processes, and systems. And obviously, AI is a huge factor in that. So we're going to talk quite a bit about that, but that's essentially me and a little bit about what I do.
Great, thank you. I'm Sam Michelson, CEO and founder of Five Blocks, and we are concerned with digital reputation management. For over about 20 years, we've been working with brands and executives on how they look when you Google them and how they look in Wikipedia and helping manage that. And the most exciting thing for us is going from 10 links or a written Wikipedia page to this new synthesized version of your reputation that's managed by all the different AIs. And what do you do with that, and how do you take more control of it?
So from the PR point of view, there's any number of angles we could tackle here. There's the how can we prove to clients and prospects that we're bringing value to what you're talking about, Sam. The tools, Sarah, that I think you said on our prep call, you're developing one tool a day for PR practitioners to use. And Sam, of course, we worked together last year, and you helped us operationalize across the company how we develop content. So I think the best place to start is probably how this impacts clients, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You can't have a team without having clients paying you. And so I'd like to dive into what the data shows on LLM searches, how that compares to SEO, because there's a lot of claims out there that earned media is driving the LLMs. And when I said that on our prep call, all three of you were, nah, that's not quite true. So I'd love to hear from you all on what you're seeing in the data, but also what that means for, don't overstate it, but here's what you should be able to tell a client in order to show the value that PR isn't a nice to have anymore. It's a need to have.
I mean, whether we're starting with a what I call traditional PR client, they come to us, they want earned media. The whole foundation is now changing and also value add. And I know Sam, you'll have ways to confirm this. I never thought I'd be saying this, but as a PR marketing agency, we now run millions of prompts. We've got access to a bunch of data and closed data. And I'm spending time digging in on those citation sources, meaning what are the URLs that are targeting the answers that LLMs are sharing. When you put in a prompt and you get an answer, what's triggering that? And it's almost 90% or more owned media, meaning stuff on your site, which now has a whole new real estate value. The earned media still does have a place that is reputational value. It still serves all those third-party things that PR was great at. And those signals do help with authority, but they're not what are showing up as the answers.
Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say I'll add to that. It sounds like Sarah and I are kind of doing very parallel work. Our company has also developed a whole tracking apparatus that lets us track tens tens of different brands and really thousands of different topics every day across a bunch of different large language models. So we're also like really interested to see where the source is coming from, or what are the large language models using, and focusing on ChatGPT because it is one that's gaining the most attention from a lot of people. I would have to agree with Sarah that there's a tremendous amount of focus on owned content, whether it's on your own website. There's also other, medium accounts are having an outsized impact. This is interesting. I think, managing reputation in Google. We have so many clients that are like, "Oh, I'll just do press releases. Press releases will help." Well, it turns out that press releases on PR Newswire are really useful for ChatGPT and some of the other AI models. We've seen that Reuters, actual news stories on Reuters, have a much more value than they did in Google. So things are shifting. There's a lot of opportunity. I think the main theme I would say is that there's a huge amount of opportunity. The main thing is to realize that it's not, well, we're not competing for spots on the first page of Google, and we're not trying to tweet something out as much as we can. We've just got all these opportunities to answer all the questions that people want to know and put out all the content. And you can do it in all these different places, but start with the things that you control the most, like your own corporate website. That's where you're going to get the fastest value.
And can we talk a little bit more too about where the data is coming from? Of course, I mean, I think that's
Sure.
really the fun one. Obviously, websites, firsthand data, anything like that. But can we talk a little bit, Sam, about Wikipedia? Because I feel like, not to tee you up, but that one is the coolest one that I've seen so far. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So when you're asking, when you want to know basic information about a brand or an executive, anything that's covered in Wikipedia, it feels like Wikipedia is the go-to to fill in all the blanks.
Yeah.
So it's well structured. Every LLM has access directly to the entire Wikipedia instantly. We did a test where we were looking at Wikipedia pages. When a Wikipedia page gets launched, there's something called the patrolling, and it's like where someone or some process in Wikipedia kind of okays it to go live, like on Google. At that moment that it goes live on Google, we have found that within like seconds, queries in the LLMs immediately start to use the full text of a Wikipedia page. So Wikipedia, which I think for a lot of people had been kind of like, okay, it's another thing to look at now and then. It's, I think, critically important to be aware of what's going on in a Wikipedia for your brand or for your executive. There's incorrect information. Getting it fixed is more important because everything is getting, most of the content in the internet now is now either being created directly by large language models or it's passing through large language models. So you have a huge amount of influence for anything that's incorrect you need to deal with. And just quick plug for us, we do have a team of about 12 or 13 Wikipedia experts, and we help brands correctly and appropriately interact with the Wikipedia community and get things set up correctly.
So cool.
One of the things I'm looking at, Sam, is because not everybody can get a Wikipedia page, right? You don't might not
Right.
have all the authority. You can do it. There are little hacks. I'm actually building a skill for GitHub right now that teaches people how to set up their wiki data, wait till that gets verified, then go set up their Google Knowledge panel. It's longer. It's another path that potentially has a lot of impact, and it lets you set up your Google Knowledge panel so that when somebody searches you, it looks really nice. So there are these like the Wikipedia one itself, way more valuable, amazing. And then I'm looking for ways to democratize that for others who maybe don't have all of that built-in authority.
How
I think
many? Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
I was
Sam.
gonna say
We knew this was going to happen. We knew it was. Yeah, go ahead.
Sarah, I think that's amazing. I think that looking at the kind of infrastructure like Wikidata, schema markup on your own website, all these kind of infrastructure things are becoming even more important because when you're starting to work through AI, speed is really important and
Yes.
understanding, having the ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot or Perplexity or whatever them kind of quickly understand and be able to get to all the right information immediately makes a massive difference. So I think connecting all the dots and helping people get those knowledge panels and everything is like we're totally on the same page.
I just didn't think even 18 months ago, there are things in my words in my lexicon and things that I'm doing that I didn't even know about. I was like, I know enough about SEO to be dangerous for the past 10 years, and now this is
Yes.
like,
Yep.
I don't even know who I am.
Right. So that's something that I found a lot in the last couple of weeks, just in me talking to clients and me talking to my team. I was sharing a story this morning with them. I had to build a website yesterday. And I did say built a website yesterday. And I came from the digital marketing space where I was selling responsive websites to people, where I had to convince them that yes, it was a good idea to put a website on a smartphone and then a tablet. That's how long I've been in this industry, which makes me sound like a crazy person when I actually say the words out loud to do this. But it's so crazy to me that we built this website yesterday. I'm like, the amount of time that I spent figuring out which boxes need to go where and then creating wireframes and then designs and going through UX, it is absolutely crazy to me that we are moving as quickly as we are. And I know, Sarah, you said this too. I'm in Chat GPT 4 to 5 hours a day. At least building something at any point in time, building all kinds of things and just helping people. And what I'm finding is that I am honestly having to be like a shepherd to help shepherd people through this process because we've learned it. Sarah, you're on there too. Like you learn it really fast, but then anyone who is like, oh, I'm not so sure, the distance between everybody is getting really, really big. And so it's not going to take them a long time to catch up, maybe. I don't know how fast we're moving, but that's the thing that's really interesting to me right now is just the gap, the knowledge gap. And if you aren't paying attention, will you really get left behind? And I don't know.
I wrote
I have,
something.
I have a question about
Go ahead,
that,
Dustin.
Sarah. Um, because one of the topics, I'm old enough to have not to have entered college before social media, and I do believe our sort of society has been sort of dumbed down by social media, and I fear that could be true with AI as well, where people just think they can just chuck stuff into it and publish it or whatever. But we had a guest a few months back. They put $100,000 into building an AI model that could create a whole crisis communications strategy in 10 minutes, weeks and weeks of work in 10 minutes. What you're all talking about can't be done by dumb people. And so I'm curious, how do you, and Sam, you trained us for our team inside Proven Media, but I'm curious, how do you make sure that leaders, AI isn't going to kill our brains, but lazy leaders might. So how do you work with your clients to make sure, or within your own teams, where they're always be reminded that their brain is the most important part of this in order to make sure everything's going to work and moving on and servicing clients, servicing your team, etc.
I mean, two things quickly on that. One is that has to be ingrained in your culture. And when you're living it, working it, and Samantha, you've lived it, and Sam also, like, there is no human, or I mean, there's no AI that can reduce the human element of what we do. It's helping us do things faster, but the quality of output shows. So AI slop will always be AI slop. If it's not cultural, people will know. But I wrote a post yesterday about we're debating back and forth of AI is going to take our job, it's going to take our job. But I said, what if we stop focusing so much on displacement and look at something like what does a $150,000 a year employee look like when they're producing $1 million worth of value? And what
So smart. Yeah.
yes,
Hmm.
go run with it. Go.
That's exactly the framing that we should be taking. Yes, absolutely. Hmm.
And I
Sorry, I didn't mean
no,
to cut that
I
thought
was
off,
like,
but that
go.
was so smart.
I just said, and this is real. I gave an example of somebody I called Mia in this post, but it was really like Sarah's hours, how when you start looking at what I was doing pre-AI, 10
Mhm.
hours, sometimes a day in meetings and notes, 6 hours of content, 4 hours
Yeah.
of deck building, 8 hours of email and Slack per week, all of those things. And when you start buying back those hours and the
Hmm.
stuff we're outputting and building and producing and the quality of work for client and the new service lines, it's exponentially more value than before I had granola recording and giving me my note recaps. Like that alone was huge.
I had a conversation yesterday with a CEO. We were talking about something completely different, very operational, using AI to read maps and then come up with pricing strategy. So extremely operational. Then at the end of the call, we were just chatting about how I was using AI to get through some sticky tasks that I had. And she's like, wait a minute, you did what? I said, oh, I record myself in a video and record the entire thing of what I need to do. That way it takes out I have to order it in this particular way, put it through ChatGPT or Claude, depending on what I'm doing. And it just orders everything for me in a document that what I need. And I don't need to spend the mental energy to actually go through and figure out if I'm saying it in the right way or go back and re-record if I'm saying it in the right way. I get that all in one thing. And she goes, Sam, do you know how many tasks are sitting here on my desk that I haven't touched? I've been putting off for 2.5 months. She actually said these were January 1st tasks. I've been putting off for 2.5 months. So for your point, Sarah, about the fact that you have a $150,000 employee doing $1 million worth of work, what about your CEO who has all of these things that's just sitting on their desk that they can't mentally get past how I organize it? And just think about the strategy, the strategic pieces. I think anyone can use that. And that certainly relates to PR as well. Any type of strategy where you're stuck like that.
I'm working through a task list at a pace I never thought possible
Yeah.
with quality because I can get all this other stuff off my plate. And I won't get too crazy, but I created an AI chief of staff with OpenClaw and my Mac Mini, and it is like I hired an entire team of senior people.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
it made me think of something I started doing recently. I do at least 4 or 5 calls a week where we're introducing our firm to a new PR partner or discussing how we work on Wikipedia or some new thing we're seeing in AI. And what I realized is that like, and then every so often I'm like, a marketing person like, we really should, blog a little. We should put something on LinkedIn. And I realized that like I'm saying all the interesting things and I'm sharing it, but I'm just doing it in audio. So I started recording those kind of calls, and I use Otter for that. The transcripts are amazing. I connected Otter to my Claude, and you can go to Claude and just say, "Hey, I've had a few conversations with partners recently, intro conversations. Can you suggest some blog posts that would be interesting to my audience based on these conversations?" And it'll come back and give me like, here's like 5 different ideas or 10 different ideas, and then you narrow it down and say, okay, here develop these two. And our recent blog posts that I've been putting out in our least recent LinkedIn posts, they're all a product of like 80% gets written from content. It's not that we're like go figure out this topic and go to the internet and find me some slop. It's like the real thinking and data and everything that we're sharing already with clients. Can you help me repurpose it in this new format? And it's been amazing. One of the posts I did recently had the most engagement of any LinkedIn post I've done in forever, and it's just because it was really able to capture this really interesting ideas. So there's so much in. I think the key to all of the things we're talking about is that none of it is like go AI and go figure stuff out without any help. It's always like leverage the information, the data, the skills that I have and my team has, and the data that we have and everything like that, and then go do more of it in a smart way.
Bingo. Yeah.
So, question on that, if I can, because Mark asked a question here in the comments. He said, "It is wonderful what AI can do. So, who's looking out for hallucinations?" And related to that, Keith Berman, who's an internal comms guy,
I love these questions. Sorry. Sorry. Keep going.
Keith has actually posted on LinkedIn a number of times and said, if you had an assistant making consistent mistakes over and over and over again, you would fire that assistant. Why are we looking at AI as some solution, never mind a panacea, when it continues to make mistakes and to constantly reorder it? You would fire a human who did that. So, Sam, I know you have an opinion on this. I'd love for you to lead the panelists on how you respond to those concerns.
Do you mean Samantha or do you mean Sam?
I'm sorry.
You've got a
I
triple
know, I know, I
triple
know.
S threat here. So I'm wondering between the Sarah, Sam, and Samantha. I figured.
Samantha.
Oh yeah, I have a very vocal opinion about this actually. Several of them. So in general, AI is a tool. So AI is no better than the human that is using it at the end of the day, right? AI is a tool. So it will either make things great, or it will just make everything that you're doing wrong really fast. Like so that's essentially what it is. AI is a tool. AI is also only the way that I tell my clients to think about it is think of AI as a junior level employee, especially when you are training AI. Make sure that you are checking its work. Make sure that you are giving it the directions that you would be giving to someone who just walked out of college, came right into your business, and just started doing whatever task it is that you handed over to them. You are obviously not going to, on the first day, hand them over a strategy with one sentence, create me a strategy. You're obviously not going to do that. But people think for some reason that ChatGPT can do that. They can't. And there's a lot of just, I know there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of misinformation around what it can and cannot do. And there's all these lists out there that are like, here's 15 prompts that you need to completely overhaul your marketing strategy, and each prompt has one sentence in it. That's not reality. That is not how AI works. And if anyone has spent any amount of time using it, they would know that. So there you go. That's my hard line in the sand. That's my opinion. But I'm open to discussion, of course.
I'm the same. I don't feel like anything to add there because it's redundant.
I have spent so many times answering these questions. That's why I'm very passionate about it at this part. Sorry, Sam. Go
You might
ahead.
have that kind of answers, Samantha, which is why I went to you first.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, look, I think that anything that's important, you go over. And there's a difference between help me organize some ideas and some thoughts that I've had, and I'm going to read over it and check it through. And then as opposed to go do all the work for me, I'm just going to send it out the way it is.
Yeah.
Clearly. So yeah, I think that the if the benefits far outweigh the fact that there could be some mistakes in it, and you have to know what question you're asking. Make sure that you're asking a question that the AI. I mean, as you get the thing is that also I don't know if I use Claude so much. I think I have 2,000 chats in there, and so whenever I utilize it, it goes back to my previous chats and knows the kind of language I want, doesn't make mistakes it's made before, and so I think there's a big advantage in kind of building on a body of knowledge that you're giving the large language model.
I'm going to go back to the tool thing just real quick too. And this is so for anyone who's saying my AI isn't listening to me or it's not learning or all this other stuff. My big thing is, are you giving it your final versions? Are you going back in? So you take it out, you're editing it, you put it into something else. Are you going back and copying it in so it can see the difference and you're telling it to do that? Because if it is, and it's still getting it wrong, then you might have an issue that I've never seen happen when you actually start putting in the final versions.
Which Samantha, was one of the challenges we ran into last year because you trained us. We did a really good job, but the system about 4 or 5 months later broke. And I think in part because ChatGPT went, and because I
Because
wasn't as
because what were you not doing, Dustin?
adding in the final blog post.
Yeah.
So we changed it. We took the model, we trained it, then we made us change to our process. Didn't do one part of the process, and it became Chat GPT 5.2. So those three things combined broke the system and like shattered it. So certainly there was that aspect of it that we just weren't doing. And so yeah, I've seen that firsthand.
And for people watching, listening, we are hitting like all sides of this right now because there are implications for internal workflow and infrastructure. There's impact for your clients with AI visibility. There is impact to how you can be personally much more productive or create content and build a brand. Like there's all these different layers for AI, and it can get very overwhelming and confusing. So I'm taking just 1 minute for my PSA to say one bite at a time. As you're listening to all of this, where do you think it could have the most impact for you right now? Because you times 100 amplified with the right tools is more valuable for everything else that you do. Like if you just try to go execute for your clients, I got to get them visible in AI, but you have no clue. Things as basic as I need to reload a final version of a document to make this tool work for me better is
Mhm.
essential because you're just going to create crap on the front end if you don't learn.
Yeah.
Well,
Agree.
and along those lines, you also need to make sure you don't forget your differentiators. When everyone is using the same tools or similar tools, as you've all worked with people who've done the following, and I've heard that people think AI is the strategy rather than a tool, and they implement it thinking this is the new big thing. People hire an accounting firm. They start using QuickBooks. They start using some operational tool, and what they don't realize is they don't have their fundamentals. So like us, we're not using all the tools that Sarah's doing, but we have other differentiators that allow us to stand out in the marketplace. And we've customized our use of AI to how we do what we do. We aren't just doing what everyone else is doing. And I personally am behind. Other members of the team are not. But again, we've customized what we do, the tools we use to what we do.
What are some of the cool tools that Sam and Sarah, you guys have? Because I don't have any tools that are specific to AI, but I know you guys, or to PR, but I know you do.
Yeah, so I'll start. Our team has developed we've developed a product called AIQ, and it basically is a tracker that tells you there's a lot of trackers out there for AI. Most of them that we've seen, they all tell you whether you're visible in AI. So your brand is Coca-Cola, and you want to know, hey, what's the best soft drinks? Are we on that list? Are we not on the list? And so there's lots and lots of trackers out there, and they're very cool. Some of them are free, and some of them are expensive. We've created what we think is the only one that is focused not on are you there or are you visible and what's your visibility, but more like what is your reputation. And so you ask it, tell me about this brand, or what are the challenges this brand is, your Delta Airlines. So what are the challenges Delta Airlines is facing? And it'll go every day and ask 8 different large language models that question, collect all the answers, collect all the sources, and then do a comparison against American Airlines and United and JetBlue and whatever, and then give you a dashboard that tells you this is how you're being perceived from a reputational perspective. These are the sites that are driving that conversation, and it immediately tells you. It'll immediately like show you like, oh, I had no idea that this blog was so influential, or that when you ask about sustainability, we're seen as less sustainable, and you start to poke around, and you're like, oh, the reason why we're seen as less sustainable is because the other one of our competitors has like a whole sustainability section on their website, and they publish
Yeah.
something once a week or something. Like it could be a lot of times it's silly stuff, and I think like right now most of the search is still being done in Google, but over time, a year from now, 2 years from now, certainly every search you do is going to be either wherever you do it is going to go through AI. So that's our AIQ tool, and that's our main tool.
I love that. So cool.
I will overwhelm you. I'll just throw that out right now because not only do we have on the Zen Media side of things, we are strategic. We are moving at the correct pace. I need to disclaim this. We've got some really cool enterprise tools that we've built. We're not releasing as SaaS just because the world is so agile and we've got different service lines. I'll tell you all about all of those. We did launch a free GEO GPT tool that plugs into our API last week, which I'm sure we can share a link to. But personally, I'm building over at AskSarah.ai. I just released 3 new tools this week, and I was going to try to have one done by the end of this show that helps you set up your Google Knowledge Panel. I'll be releasing it soon. Some of them you need a little technical knowledge, some you don't. I've got a Gen AI Wire release, GPT, just released this morning, a crazy new resource for journalists, but PR people can use it and reverse engineer how to better pitch exactly based on what newsrooms want. We'll have to put a link somewhere and share those, but there are some wild things that exist if you know where to look.
So
Sarah, I was sorry, Dustin. Sorry, go ahead. I was going down a geeky route. I can talk to Sarah after.
I need to veer us back a little bit, partly because, as I was saying on the beginning of this call, my family is kind of getting over about a 2-week various illnesses with fever, so I need to keep the show a little short today. I do want to ask Sam something we talked about on the prep call. You do a lot of work on how are you perceived in certain regions. That's a lot of what you do. But you also talked about Wikipedia, right? That's wide and open. Whereas, as I understand it, the stuff that's behind a paywall, a lot of local media has everything locked behind a paywall. So how valuable is local media, which is more trusted by the audiences than national media, et cetera? But is it still as accessible? And how does that play into how you all would advise your clients or advise PR firms to think through pointing out the value of local media in an LLM era?
Yeah. Well, I think the visibility is super important when it comes to media. So, we actually did kind of a study and to find out like for all the large language models, like which ones use which media, and we found that not surprisingly, ChatGPT has the most agreements with the most media. So they're getting more articles than anybody, the full text of more articles than anybody else. But we are finding that I was finding that Perplexity, always shows you lots and lots of articles. But if you actually go to Perplexity and say, it says, okay, well, use this as a source. Can you tell me what line in the article, made you think that? And it goes, I'm sorry, I don't have actually access to that article at all. So it seems like a lot of the sources that you get are the LLMs don't actually have the full text of that. They get the blurb, they triangulate, they see it quoted somewhere else, they make assumptions. So I think that there is a huge problem with having your content in places that's behind paywalls that where there isn't any access. I mean, I think in Google and it would enable the crawler or sites would enable the crawlers to get behind it because they weren't afraid that you're giving away all the content. This was for indexing. But with LLMs, actually, since you're probably not going to go to the content, they are actually scooping up all the content. So I think it's a real problem. I think that whenever you're releasing news, you need to make sure that you're not releasing it only to places that are behind paywalls. And that's why sources like PR Newswire becomes more important because anybody can read PR Newswire. It's not knocked out to anybody. So I think that looking at those kinds of things, and so I think with local media, that's why sometimes even like blogs that would not have any credence when it comes to Google will actually be a lot more useful when it comes to so a local blog that has the story that may be the only, if there's no source for that content and someone's asking the question and it's something that is being cached by search engines, then that's going to work for you. So I think you brought up a really important point. I'm not sure what the full solution is. I guess the solution is always to make sure that if something is meant to be read, then it's not hiding in a place where it can't be read.
And I just want to say we've run hundreds of proof of concepts now with Globe Newswire, and we have 5 different ways that we write what we call Gen AI wire press releases, everything from listicles and editorials to um, you name it. There's traditional news announcements for traditional releases, but they're formatted very specifically. They have a very specific
Interesting
distribution,
to talk about this.
and we point back to in the days of SEO, what would be a pillar page. We call them anchor articles on a specific
Ooh.
topic that are written and designed to impact where you are invisible in prompts. We are now impacting AI visibility within 4 days. That plus any trade or earned media, instead of pointing back to the homepage, we're asking them to also use that URL. So we're pointing sources of authority back to quarterly anchor articles. And that's where the human layer, you can't have AI do all this. There are humans writing these pieces, pulling the prompts, the visibility, running the strategy, planning the content series for those things. So tangent off local news, but this is a huge opportunity.
We've got about 10 minutes left. Samantha, what haven't we talked about that you want to know?
I
Because we've
mean,
had, we've had Sarah talk about all her tools. We've had Sam talk about local media. What haven't we talked about that you want to lead on?
that's a great question. Thank you for asking it, Dustin. I would say I think the biggest thing right now that I'm seeing with my clients, and this goes across everybody. So it's not just PR, it's essentially running a business, right? That's really where I focus is running a business and using AI to run a business. And a lot of people are struggling with the prioritization of how they actually, I think what Sarah said earlier around don't bite off more than you can chew, focus on your one thing.
Mhm.
Asking yourself questions, there's 3 of them. I have a
Oh.
worksheet that I do my 3 questions. Asking yourself 3 questions. What are you spending your most time on? What are you ignoring that is potentially high value? And what is messy and should be cleaned up? Those are the 3 things that you should be asking yourself in terms of what you start putting your AI towards. That's what it is. And I can tell you right now, any business on the planet, it's always training and onboarding documents are your number one things that you need to be looking at. So anybody, any PR agency, anyone in PR in a business, that will be applicable. That's where I'm working right now.
Sarah, Sam, anything you want to wrap up on? Again, it's hard to run this show a little short today, but 5 kids, 2 parents, and a number of illnesses and fevers, so got to keep it short.
No, it's fine. That was us last week. This is actually the first day I'm not insanely congested. Um, Please check out Zen Media, everything that we're doing in building. Message me if you are a B2B enterprise tech brand who
Hmm.
wants to impact how you show up in search or at least set up infrastructure. We do everything from AI SEO to modern day communications and public relations to hi-fi, lo-fi, you name it. And then my personal passion series is over at AskSarah.ai. If you have a pain point or challenge, please send it to me. I love to build and find solutions.
Yeah.
Sam?
Yeah, so the only thing I'd add is this. It's kind of daunting when you see, you think of a world, 6 months or 12 months from now when, a lot of the things that we've thought about in PR seem like, oh, they're all going to be completely different. I'm going to search in different ways. I'm going to find different kinds of information. Everybody's going to see different things than everybody else. And I guess I would want to leave you with a calming message, which is this is while this looks like a massive revolution, it's actually evolution. If you go back, I started my company more than 20 years ago, and it was paid advertising, and it was actually in Yahoo and using
Yeah.
Overture for people to remember, and then over to Google before it was called AdWords, and so and then it was and then there was the early SEO days and social media, everything. It's all kind of gone, but one thing has remained the same, which is that there's content and messaging and narrative that your brand wants to communicate, and the ways that you do that effectively are changing. Meaning the you still have to have a narrative, and you still need to know who you're trying to communicate with, and you still need to be thinking about how are they going to be processing this, and how is it going to work in the context of the other companies out there and everything. What's happening now is that there's a massive new capability, a lot of new tools that will help us. Hopefully, you can harness these new capabilities and do extremely well. If you keep doing what you're doing, you may get run over by this. And one last thought I'll leave with that is that imagine 6 months from now or a year from now when you go online to find some information out. Like a year ago, certainly you would end up on the websites of your, I don't know, I want a new tennis racket, and so you look for whatever feature you want, and then you find a few sites, you kind of poke around. That's not going to happen anymore. You're not going to go to all those different sites and to all those different review sites, because you're going to go into ChatGPT, you're going to go into Google, you're going to go into some tool that's going to give you an AI comparison. And I doubt you're really going to go all the way into the original content sources until you're ready to make that purchase. Or maybe even not then, or if you want to watch a video or some other special reason. So we have to start thinking about this new world where we live in, where the browser is not this stupid TV set where you just go through channels. It is doing a bunch of the work for you. It's bringing the content to the searcher. So in that context, we need to start thinking about, like, what are all the conversations that we want to be a part of? When someone talks about this, do I want to be there? So how am I going to be there? I need to have all the content available. I need to make sure that it's being seen by the different LLMs through the different search engines and so on. If I and that's not going to be enough. I'm going to want to do press releases about it. I'm going to need to create compelling content. All the things that I was always supposed to do all along, they're all still true. It's just that we can really focus our efforts in now and say, listen, I know what the searcher is going to be doing. The searcher is going to be asking for exactly the thing they want. How do I make sure that I am the answer to that thing, that my product, that my clients' products are there? And so, like, it's like everything is on steroids, but it's not. You still want to talk to media. You still are going to need to do multimedia. You got to have lots of FAQs. You got to think about all the questions and answer all of them. You got to make things really easy to find, and you just have to do. And you don't have to, like the story about the guy that's being chased after by a lion, and his friend is standing next to him. He says, "Why are you tying your shoes?" He goes, "You're not going to be able to outrun the lion." He goes, "I don't have to outrun the lion. I just have to outrun you." Uh, you just have to outrun the competitors. You don't have to outrun everybody. Meaning, you just have to be more prepared, more ready than everybody else. And if you use the kind of these available tools, you will be. And that's so don't despair. There's help is on the way. You just have to figure out how to use the right tools.
Mhm.
And I want to make sure we close on something we opened with, which is there's a lot of people in the PR world celebrating how the LLMs are allegedly going to make the industry You know, allegedly, I think twice as much revenue is going to come to the PR world in the next few years. Someone posted that recently. That doesn't necessarily mean there'd be twice as many employees. That could mean you have half as many employees and they're 4 times as productive because of AI. And so I want to make sure we remind everybody that while LLMs are growing, while earned media plays a significant role, don't oversell your clients and prospects on where earned media plays a role in the LLMs. As Sarah and Sam said on our prep call, they were both shaking their heads exactly the same pace, exactly the same time when I said that there's people saying that, 2/3 or 90% of what you're finding on the LLMs are earned media. It's not that high. So certainly it's valuable, but we definitely don't want to overstate it in terms of selling to clients because PR is already seen as a nice to have. That's amorphous. And the more that you oversell, the less likely you actually are to close the sale, whether it's with a prospect or an existing client.
And two things, Dustin, because I have to add to that, is this is based on what we know to be true today. If Sam and I are in our systems and we're looking at data, and a month from now we're like, actually, earned media is having its moment, we'll be the first to celebrate
Sure.
it and shout it from the rooftops. And secondarily, everything that we're doing right now has the opportunity to make PR more valuable because of LLMs. Imagine when agentic commerce turns on, when we're talking about people, either agents making purchasing decisions, because we said, I'm looking for a pair of sneakers under $50, and it comes back and it says, would you like me to make this purchase for you? And it's done. And the answers that show up really matter. Maybe at one point you were invisible. Maybe you increased where you show up in those rankings. That's going to be due to strategic comms efforts. And when you can have a board ready metric that says, we were not in the answers, now we are. We're getting traffic from LLMs. We're getting agentic commerce revenue from LLMs. That is huge for us.
Mm-hmm. So much of what I talk about is that you need to speak the language of your CFO if you're going to go anywhere. So that is spot on.
Yes, board
Yes.
ready metrics.
Board ready metrics.
That's what I
But
always think.
seriously, but you're right. Because at the end of the day, you can't speak comms jargon and expect the boss or the client to get on board. And you can't speak comms jargon and expect the buyer to get on board. It has to be customized for user experience as well as the LLMs. And the thing I want to close on, besides giving my eldest kid a back rub here, you can't see her if we don't put our kids online, is the just lost my train of thought, my own show. Is that you also when it comes to number of voices are out there in PR, we've all hinted at the fact that you need to have multi-channel marketing, put a plug in for proven media. What we do is find third-party authors. So if your client is out there trying to talk their own message, again, Sarah and Sam and Samantha have said it, owned media is most important. But if you have someone in the local press talking over here and trade press over there, other people not directly connected to your organization, that will vastly increase credibility because people trust Yelp reviews more than the CEO making a speech. I actually have a theory that as AI hallucinations and fakes grow, then we will actually see a lot more trust in local people, your neighbor who says their thing in local press, in their presentation, on their social media, than any influencer using AI.
Which is also why we shouldn't discredit any medium right now, because you don't know when it will come back. And what if that evolution is true and you've completely neglected local media and you're like, shoot, now we got to get back on the train. They have their place for authority, reputation, impact, even if it's not, I can't link this to AI visibility right now.
I learned my lesson with the QR code, honestly. You don't discredit anything. Everything will make a comeback.
Yeah.
COVID, thank you, QR codes.
Yes.
Excuse me. All right, folks, I got to jump. We are crashing over here at the Siggins household. I mean, at Siggins Media Solutions headquarters. And so thanks. This was so much fun. Just watching you all get so excited and nerd out to each other was really enjoyable. And I learned a lot. So thank you very much. And hope you have a good rest of the day, folks. Take care.